Now we're live.
It's preparing apparently, so I'm gonna hit the record button as well.
Are you record? You can record in here, right? I don't have to. Okay.
Yes, and we are live. So give me a second. I will copy the link into the chat for you guys. There you go. Go share.
Cool.
Going
to share.
Yeah.
Going to share. Going to share.
Going to Share Town.
So, who has cool stories about interesting things that you have done or has happened to you this week?
I don't have a link.
And we are live.
I took a self-portrait.
You
did.
Oh, for the project that may or may not work? That one?
I found, so I had my images and then I lost my images and then I found them again. So it's a whole thing.
Nice.
My hard drive crashed on me, so that's my
where is our link at, Ella?
In the chat, in the Zoom
Why
chat.
do I not see?
Here.
Oh, there's the button. There we go.
I was looking in the other chat too.
Oh no, what chat was it? There's so many chats.
I don't know where to go.
Has anybody posted it in the group yet?
Oh, that's a great screen cap of me. Thanks.
Oh yes, I got the face. Fantastic.
Last time it was me just like deadpan and Nicole's all happy. I'm just like,
I liked that. You said to go back to Nicole, and I was like, oh, that's real funny.
go from me to her.
Doing this.
Hey.
Yeah, what's new?
Ooh,
What's happening? What's popping? How's quarantine?
You know,
so sad.
it's a thing that's happening.
same.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
I put a face on and left my pajamas on, so.
I think I've been wearing leggings for the past like 40 days.
Where is
Oh,
problem?
fun fact.
No,
Today I
it's,
put my sweatpants on inside out by accident.
Hey,
Because I
at this
don't
point,
care.
who notices?
You've taken your pants off in the last week? Because I don't get it.
This
Yeah,
was the
like-
first time I showered
Nice.
in,
That's
in a
beautiful.
while. So,
Now I'm in a
No.
shed full of horrors.
Okay, so
What?
same thing as last time. I've got the chat on the YouTube channel going, so I'll let you guys know if there's any questions or something that pop up that we can answer. But otherwise, yeah, Kelly, take it away.
Awesome. Okay, well, are we doing introductions again? Because I missed last week. Because, sorry. Are we introducing ourselves?
Sorry.
Go for it if you want to.
we can.
I'm Kelly.
One last time.
One
Last time for you newcomers.
All right. I'm Kelly, educator with Pro EDU, and I create crazy, weird, insane stuff.
Thank you.
You see?
I'm Nicole. I have a house full of rambunctious boys between the ages of 7 and 17.
Nice.
I am a photographer and digital artist and senior writer for F-Stoppers.
Go Olga.
Who? What?
Olga.
Who? What? Who?
My name is Olga, and I am a boudoir and intimate photographer, and I have no children.
You have fur babies.
Kate's turn.
Yeah, I'm Kate. I am also a Pro EDU educator. I like color.
And Ella.
And I'm Ella. I'm a beauty, fashion, I guess you could say e-commerce photographer because that's what I mostly shoot. But yeah, I don't know. I got an art degree. That makes me cool and qualified, right?
Yeah, it does.
You're
tight.
so cool.
So qualified.
All right.
We're all qualified.
So I guess I apologize for everyone that's been in here and knows what we're doing because I missed a week. But I am hosting this week. So do I just screen share with you guys? Is that
Yeah, just hit the screen share.
Can I make a quick announcement? We updated the rules in the group because we have a Facebook group, in case you didn't know that. We should probably post a link somewhere if you haven't seen it. If you're watching this, you probably know or aware of the Facebook group. But anyway, the rules have been updated and there are basically 2 rules. Rule number 1.
Someone's yelling in the background.
Oh, rhetorical strategies.
rule number 2 is that the group is about critique. So as much as we all love a pat on the back, the purpose of the group is not to post an image and for us to give you likes, because that's not really helpful to you at all. So if you post an image, expect critique. If you're going to comment on an image, please give critique. If you really like the image and you don't have anything negative to say about it, tell us what it is about that image that you like. So you can talk about composition, you can talk about color, you can talk about narrative, but like be specific and say what it is about that is working or that's not working, because that is how we grow and get better. But that's it. 2 rules. Follow them.
Easy rules. Easy peasy.
Super easy.
Easy.
Super easy.
Super.
All right. Well, kids, so are we ready for my picks?
Yes, ma'am. Let's start with a numero uno.
Oh, this is my first
How I feel.
pick. And I guess, do you want me to go first or do you guys want to
Go
go
ahead.
first? All right. So I picked this image because it's not really along the vein of what I do. So I was interested to see, I think there's a few ladies in here that can give some really awesome critiques. So my instant thought with this is it's beautiful. I like the juxtaposition of like her eye makeup going down and her eyebrows going up and her mouth going up. And I like the crop. There's so much stuff that I like about this photo, but there are also some things that I think could potentially make it a lot stronger from a retouching point of view, even though it's beautiful. From my point of view, I'd love to see some more highlights. I think it's very flat to me, and I know that that's some people's style, but a little more dodge and burn I think would really pop this image. And I also really want to see something going on in her eyes. I understand that, you know, it's meant to be moody and kind of dark, and she's pissed off, or she's so emotional, but I just want to see like a catch light or a little bit of something in her eyes to bring a little bit of that light forward. So I just wish that we could up the contrast a little bit, up the highlights a little bit, add some more dodge and burn. But like the crop I think is fantastic. The shadows and I love this image. And from a retouching point of view, I really enjoy this image. But I just think there's several tiny little things that could be done, and it would, I don't know, I think it would just put it on another level at this point. Yeah, so that's what I have to say about this one. I mean, I think it's beautiful. I just love that it's not just pretty for the sake of being pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And she's making a face and she's burrowing her eyebrows, and I love that whole feeling. But I do, from a personal point of view, think that there needs to be a little more contrast in the image.
I like this shot as well. I think it's really pretty. I like the color a lot.
Me too.
I think with beauty, we often have to know, are we talking, like, what's the focus of it? Are we talking skin? Is this editorial makeup? And I think this is editorial makeup given the nature of the makeup on the eye. So I would like to see just a little bit more of the eye makeup. I think we're losing some under her brow, which the expression is great, but if we were just a bit lower in camera, we could kind of see the shape, or if her lid were down just a little bit, we could see the shape of the eye makeup a little more. I would darken the neck and the ear. And in fact, I like the crop almost. I feel like it needs to come down and left just a tad, because right now the ear is super bright and so is the neck. And I think it's pulling attention away from where our attention should be, which should be a little bit more the eye. But for me, that's really kind of the only issues I have. I think the neck and ear are a little bit too bright, and I'd like to see a little bit more of the shape of the eye makeup, and I would move the crop just a tiny bit to camera left because the ear is kind of distracting. But aside from that, I think it's really pretty. I think the color is gorgeous.
It's funny that you say about the crop too, because initially I thought that maybe it needed to be moved over a little bit, but then I actually went and measured it, and her eye is literally right in the center, and I really love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that maybe it's a bit heavy on one side, but I do love the fact that her one eye is perfectly centered.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also something that I had touched on, and I struggled with that for a while when I was looking at it. So
Sure.
Wasn't quite sure.
I'm with Nicole on this too, and I think that the crop issue might resolve itself if you do darken the ear and the neck just a little bit.
Totally
and bring
could. Yeah.
the face. What's interesting to me about this is like I'm less, I mean, I used to shoot a lot of beauty, but for me, I'm less interested in the beauty aspect and more interested in like the portrait and the expression aspect. So I would probably be a lot more forgiving of this image in general, but because it is a beauty image, we treat those types of images a little bit differently. So I'm trying to look at this kind of through the eye of a beauty photographer. And I think a lot of the points that you guys have brought up, I would agree with. I think there's a little bit of depth lacking in the eyes, maybe just like just a touch more of a highlight on the iris, or just if we could have gotten like a catch light on the eye, that would have brought more focus to the eye. I think if I was going to be really nitpicky, maybe kind of cleaning up and evening out the thickness of the liner on the bottom part of the eye, just to make it really deliberate and really crisp. Some basic stuff along the hairline too, like there's kind of a little bit of a gap in the hair here, and it's beauty too, right? So it's like you're trying to find this fine line of making it look realistic still, and adding that level of perfection. And I think the skin is perfect. I wouldn't touch the skin. I think the skin retouching is really good. It's like that really nice balance between well retouched, but it still has that detail and the depth to it. But just kind of like around the hairline, there's like one kind of stray hair that goes in here that I might tweak. But other than that, yeah, I'm pretty much on board with what Nicole and Kelly were saying.
Let's see, Olga.
Yeah, I really have to agree with pretty much everybody. That's how it goes, though. It's like, yes, I agree with these things. I really think it's a really pretty image. I like the skin color. It really complements her tone. I think one thing I would really, really love if the photographer or editor would have maybe highlighted the blue in her eyeliner a little bit more, because like you guys were saying, that kind of seems to be the focus, and I feel like it's really lost with where the point of view is. So if maybe they would have made it pop a little bit more, or change where the camera was, I think it would really help with creating more of like a central focus. But other than that, I really like the image, and it's my really, yeah.
Yeah, I really don't have like too much more to add because you guys said everything I was thinking already. Just like a few little pieces of the hairline that are a little like crazy. There's that one hair at the very top near her head, where it's going like diagonal instead of straight back. I do really like the eyebrows. I think they're like eyebrows.
I love a brushed up brow.
Yeah, like it's just groomed in general eyebrows. Like if they're all going the same direction, doesn't matter if they're up or to the side, whatever. That's great. I love that. The skin retouching is fantastic. Like I love the lighting that she's chosen for this. I do wish, like you guys said, that there was more light in her actual eyeballs. So maybe just like angling the reflector a little bit more, or bringing the light down a touch, or maybe shooting down a little bit, and then she could have looked up more. So, but I mean, like I love the expression. I do actually like the crop because, like Kelly said, it is like her eyeball is centered. The only thing with the angle that she's at right now, to me, when I'm looking at this, especially because I'm staring at it for so long now, it does look like her eyes are going in two different directions. So if she had brought her eyes a tiny bit more forward instead of so much to the side, they would have looked more like they're going the same direction. So it's just little tiny stuff like that I'm noticing. But really, honestly, like at first glance, I didn't see that. It's only now because I'm staring at this, right?
Yeah.
But overall, it's like a really great image, and I really like it. I like the mood, and I like the simplicity of the makeup and just the shot in general. So yeah, I don't have like a ton more to add, but I do really like it.
Yeah, I like it too. I like that. I wonder what she's looking at and sort of what the intention is behind the image. I don't know. I mean, obviously with a beauty shot, you necessarily have to have a story, right? Like beauty's not really my jam, but I just like that it kind of leaves you wondering. But I also agree that the makeup could be cleaned up a little bit as well. But I mean, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really great image.
Yep.
Super great retouch
Actually
too.
nice and
Love the
clean.
color choices.
Amazing retouch. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So are we done with this one, ladies?
Yeah.
So
This
this
was
is
it.
by, let me tell you who it's by.
Yes.
Drum roll. Chris. Good job. Good job.
Nice job, Chris. It's gorgeous.
Well done.
Also, thumbs up image.
Beautiful.
Oh,
Well
I
done.
just hit my desk.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not the kind of drum roll we were talking about, Ella.
Sorry.
All right. Next one.
Yep.
Yep.
Do we?
All right. So are we wanting me to start the whole time or does somebody else?
Doesn't matter.
Olga, do you want to give it a go? Because have you gotten to start?
Do
it, Olga.
Do it, Olga.
Oh, Olga.
Okay, I will go. So overall, I think it's a really pretty image. I love the facial expression. I love the pose of the model. And if I really were to pick anything, it'd be all just kind of nitpicky things about how her dress or whatever is digging into her shoulder. I would probably just kind of pop that up just because to create that nice smooth line. I feel like my eye stops right there since it is like a black strap. It's very distracting to me, and I would just like my eye just to go, woo. Let's see. It's so funny because like I'm just looking at these images now, so.
Yeah, I've only just pulled them up as well.
That's okay. Take your time. We have nowhere to be. Do you guys have nowhere to be? Because I have nowhere to be.
I have a few points right away if you want to think about it, Olga.
Yeah, I mean, other than just that, popping it up, the shoulder strap area and maybe the smudge in the background, I think it's a really solid image.
Yeah, I really like it. I really like the color. I like the pose. I like the light. For me, I'm not loving the retouching. I think it's a good start, but I think it could be pushed like way, way more. There's a lot of like color variances in her skin, like some green spots, some red spots, some like slightly more tan spots like on her shoulders. Her eyebrows could use a little bit of cleaning up, as well as there's really visible makeup on her forehead, which is honestly like the texture is really draws my attention right away. And same thing we said last time too, like I wish her eyes just had like a little bit more light because they're just a little bit muted and a little bit dark. So to me, like great image. I would just really push through retouching on this and like really clean up the skin tones, really clean up the makeup, get rid of like some of the really heavy makeup texture in her forehead. I don't mind the hair so much because it does look natural. Like I'm not a huge stickler for perfect hair. I don't think that every piece needs to be exactly, smooth to perfection. So I like a natural hair look, but when I can see makeup texture, that's what really kills an image for me.
Fair.
So I like the image a lot. Don't get me wrong. I think it's beautiful. I just think it needs some work on the retouching side.
I'm with Ella on this, generally speaking, with regard to the color. The retouching on her face doesn't bother me that much, but there's kind of a spot on the top of her hand and on her wrist that I think because there's so much variation in color and in luminosity, it's just distracting to the eye a little bit. And there seems to be kind of like a hard line between the top of her wrists and the bottom 2/3 of it, which is just kind of funky. So I would just go in and pay a little bit closer attention to that area. I agree with Olga on the bra strap digging into the shoulder a bit. It's slightly distracting. And I think on the right side of her where her arm is, that's under her head, I think you could probably burn the edge of the arm a little bit more, because right now you have this kind of bright spot over on that part of the image that's kind of pulling your eye in that direction. So I think you could bring the luminosity of that down just a touch. It doesn't have to be a significant amount, but just a little bit will really focus the eyes on her face. The back of the hair is a little funky too. Like it feels like there's kind of a patch of brighter area, and there's like a hard delineation between like the darker front part of her hair and this back spot that's a little bit brighter. So maybe trying to burn that as well and just have it fade a little bit more gradually. But honestly, aside from that, I think it's a really compelling image. I mean, I feel like the entire time this image has been on the screen, she's just staring at me, and I can't, like, no matter where I go, she's looking at me. And...
I agree with you guys. I mean, first instinct is that it's super, like Kate said, it's really compelling. I like the overall color choice. Even I'm for some reason a big fan of green in portraits. I don't know why. This actually reminds me of the kind of photo I would take. So it immediately appeals to me. The kind of moody, dramatic, soft lighting. But if I were to change anything, I would agree, bra strap fix. My main issue is the color variances that Ella mentioned, and then also the fact that her left arm close to the edge of the camera is brighter than her face. Her hand is bright, and her shoulder on the right-hand side where it meets her arm about here, all those areas are bright, and I feel like they pull your eye out toward the edge of the image. And I would rather have those lines be there but not be distracting from her face, which I think is the most compelling part. So I would just burn them enough to darken them a bit, and not enough to like completely make it look like it's vignetted, but just so that they're not pulling the eye out to the edge of the image. But that's my main thing, and that her face is much more peachy pink than her arms and her neck and her chest, which are still very green. So I would just even that out a little bit. But aside from that, I don't even mind the lack of light in the image or in the eyes. I actually like that. You can see a catch light there. And I'm not one of those people who feels like I need to have a catch light as long as it fits with kind of the tone of the image. But aside from that, yeah, those are tiny things. I really like this shot. I think it's really well done. I think with a few tweaks, it would be really stunning.
Yeah, so my thoughts are basically the same as your guys. I agree. I find the front hand very distracting, just because it's so much lighter than her face, and I feel like maybe the tone of her body could be brought up a little bit in terms of like the saturation or like matching the tones. And again, I think it's just all nitpicky stuff, right? Like for me, if I was retouching, I'd probably get rid of some of the wisps that are kind of hanging around, or the extra hairs on her arm, like not the one that's in front of her face, but the one that's out to the side. There's a few little stray hairs that I would probably get rid of, but again, that's just nitpicky stuff. And one of my notes on this too was like the eyes. I just wanted a little more life in her eyes, but I do understand what you're saying too, Nicole. And I do think
it's just a personal preference on
yeah,
my
for
part.
sure. And I mean, there's a story, like, it's funny because the strap on her shoulder immediately is what I saw as soon as I opened up the image. But based off the story that I'm forming from this image, I kind of thought it pulled everything together. Like, why is she laying like that? Like it's almost storytelling to me. I feel like it's a possibility that it fits into I don't know. Again, I know I'm so into big, like the storytelling behind an image, and I just feel like maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe I'm just making excuses for things because that's what I do with my own work. But like, I don't hate it. I think that there's maybe a possibility for the reasoning behind it. But yeah, my notes are all basically the same. I think it's really thought-provoking. I think it's beautiful. I wish that more of the focus was on her face as opposed to me going automatically to her arms and stuff, but it's all little stuff. I think she's beautiful. I also kind of wondered if she was cropped in a little bit tighter, but I think with your suggestions about burning the arms and maybe adding some some darkness to those really highlighted areas. I think it might fix it, because I wondered if it would be more impactful if it was cropped a little bit tighter. But I think she's beautiful, and I want to know the story behind the image. So
I think it's a portrait. It's really successful. I mean,
Yeah.
we always talk about eye contact in portraits, and I have mixed feelings about that personally in my work, but I think this is a really stunning example of how you can really like draw in the viewer's attention with that eye contact. Because like I said, I just feel like she's looking at me and she's like staring into my soul, and like and vice versa. Like there's a definite connection here. I think
for sure.
Olga, did you have anything else to add now that we've said all our pieces?
Yeah, once you guys started saying the other things, I was like, oh, that's right. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think one more thing I'd like to add is, maybe Kelly kind of touched on it, maybe if you cropped it in a little bit tighter and maybe lost that arm that kind of goes off to nowhere, it might help with kind of feeling a little bit more zoomed in and focused on, instead of your eyeball going from left to right, back and forth, maybe just zoom in a little bit. But then again, it would kind of take away from just like the pano and like just the sweeping image of somebody, laying flat, and it makes you feel kind of flat. So as my brain goes. But other than that, I think we all pretty much touched on it. It's a great image. It's really striking. You just want to ask her, like, what are you doing?
Why are you so sad?
Why are you so sad? Or mad? I don't know.
Like, I think the color adds so much to this too, because if it wasn't this kind of like muted, greeny kind of, I don't know, like overcast looking color shot, like it would be such a different image. And the color is a really excellent choice, I think, anyways.
For some reason, I feel like she's a ballerina. Maybe that's the hair and
and the black. Yeah,
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, I think she's
cool.
I love it. So this image was by Alicia Knight.
Oh,
beautiful
Alicia.
job, Alicia.
I love it.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, it's very her style.
Yeah, now that I see it. Also, this is a thumbs up image. I think everything, all the critique we gave is small stuff. So
small stuff. Yeah, for
so
sure.
many thumbs.
All right.
It's gorgeous.
Kind of looks like Alicia Vikander.
Yeah, it does.
Is it you, Alicia?
Oh, it kind of does.
Alicia, doppelganger.
All right. Next.
Yes.
Next. Remind me when this is over, if we don't go too long, I would like to talk to you guys about eye contact in portraits and what your thoughts are, because I think that that's really an interesting topic of conversation amongst portrait photographers.
Is
my eye contact making you uncomfortable?
No.
What?
Stare into my eyes forever, Woodman.
How'd you do that? One more time, and then we'll move into this image.
What? Me?
Yeah.
Ooh. Skills.
Called for eye contact.
What is wrong with you people?
We're normal people.
Now my eyes
They've got talents. Lots of talents.
You can't see the images.
All right. That's it. And we're wrapped.
We're done.
Okay.
So I think you guys can probably understand why I picked this image, because I feel a little at home with this. So initially, when I pulled this image up, I sat with it for a sec, because I thought, okay, this is obviously somebody who maybe has followed my work, and I think that they're really trying to push the surreal retouching aspect of it. And then I wasn't sure, because I wanted to talk about it, and that's why I wanted to bring it in. But then I wasn't sure if it actually was a retouch, or if she just has beautiful big eyes and there was just some liquefy going on. If this is meant to be a surreal retouch, then I think there are a few little things that we have to be aware of, and that is taking it further, because this is I often get this critique with my work, because people are like, why are you making them so small, and you're pushing this agenda of, this isn't body positive, this is, setting people up for failure. And I always try to push my artwork as far as I can, literally because of those reasons, because I retouch the way I do because it's meant to be a story and sort of a fairy tale, and it's not supposed to be realistic. And because I sort of struggled with whether this was actually meant to be surrealistic, I think it needs to be taken further. So it looks like even here, just work on the liquefy. I would just, make the wrists really small. I would, push her eyes. Her irises are looking a little off. This, I don't know. Can you guys see my mouse?
Mm-hmm.
So this eye looks a little bit bigger than this eye. I like the impact of the image, and I understand not all heroes wear capes, and I think we're in a situation right now where images like this are very impactful, and I understand what the artist is going for, but I would have liked to see, if we're heroes, if we're superheroes, like bring that chin up and like go into it with intention, because I think the impact behind it would be great if you just pushed the storyline a little bit further. Even some of the tones, right? Like it's very muted looking, but like she's badass and she's a hero. So like, let's make her a hero, and I don't know. This flare here, I think we could probably do without. I don't think it really brings anything to the image. I mean, overall, it's a great message. Overall, it's a nice image. I just think there are like little tiny tweaks that could be made to make it more impactful, to sort of hinge itself on the idea of not all heroes wear capes, and again, to push the hero agenda. But if it is surreal retouching, I'd love to see you take it a bit further. Like in the neck, and make sure the eyes are even, and pull her arms up and pull her waist in, and just make her look realistic but unrealistic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
She isn't meant in.
It's not her.
Yeah.
She's just an avatar for an idea, right? It's not meant to look like a specific person. It's meant to. Right.
And I don't know if the surreal retouch really works for a situation like this unless you really push it, and you really push your story, and you really push your agenda. So I love the concept of this. And I mean, if it is, and again, I feel horrible saying this, but I'm just not sure if that was the intention behind it, was a surreal retouch. So that's sort of where I struggle with it, because if it is, I want to see you push it more. I want to see more surrealism and more whimsy, and to take it out of reality, because right now it is very realistic, but it looks like it's been toyed with a little too much in terms of liquefy. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Okay.
I think Kelly kind of hit it on the head here. I think you really, if you're going to go that route, it really needs to be exaggerated. And I think people are afraid to kind of push things too far, because it's not something that we're used to as photographers. We're used to realism. And so kind of pushing these boundaries feels uncomfortable. But there is definitely a line that you have to cross in order to make this, feel surreal, versus just kind of like a halfway point, right? And I agree with Kelly in terms of the concept and juxtaposing this sort of technique with the concept itself. I agree there needs to be some other element, either in like the pose or the background treatment, or just something that really emphasizes the hero element, and like the combination of the hero and the surreal aspect of it. Like if I think of the first thing that kind of popped into mind was like the movie The Incredibles, right? And like how you have this superhero, the main like mom character, and she's got this very exaggerated like body shape and form. So maybe kind of thinking along lines of something like that, and like how heroes are represented in the sort of like Pixar world, and how they've been able to utilize that kind of surrealist shape or caricature to successfully portray that sense of heroship. I think for me, adding something in the background might really help kind of facilitate the hero aspect of it. Whether you add in a cape or just add in some like color or something that feels dramatic and feels like it could relate to, something heroic, I think that would add a nice element, because the way that the image is now, the way that it's lit feels more like just a portrait. And I think if you're talking about heroism and heroics, like typically to me, that would require more stylization, I guess. That would kind of be my take on that.
I also had a note about this image too, which what you were saying brought me back. I wonder what this image would look like if it was a little more saturated and there were some really great dodging and burning and like changing the tones a little bit to make it more impactful. Because again, like we're talking about heroes, and if it is meant to be like a surreal retouch, you could really push that agenda. And I think the concept is fantastic, and I like the creativity behind it. I like what she's doing, but I agree with you that there just has to be just a little push.
Yeah, this is an opportunity.
To tell a story. It definitely is
go big or go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard too when I'm looking at the image on my computer as well, because it's obviously like a small image file. So it's not super sharp and clear, and there is a lot of like banding and pixelization, and I can't tell if it's in the image or if it's just because it's a super small image size. So I'm finding it kind of hard to like talk about anything that you guys haven't already talked about, because the image quality isn't there for me to check. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't really have much more to add, unfortunately, because of the image resolution problem that I have right now.
So a hint for people then who are going to submit, the better image quality you can get us, the more detailed feedback we can give you.
Yeah. Like you don't have to send us the original, but send us like a very high quality, smaller JPEG if you can.
Yeah. Does anyone know if that stethoscope is?
I was wondering that.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks photoshopped on, right?
It does, yeah.
I just don't see any shadows, so I don't know if the shadows were removed or if it's just so weird.
That's what I was wondering too.
But it feels a little.
Be neat to see her stance a bit different too, because like she's kind of been taken out at the knees here, and I wonder if it would have more impact if she was pulled back a little bit further and she had a real hero stance to her, because I'm assuming that's what it is, right? Like the hero. And so there's just little things that you could have done that, I mean, obviously you can't fix that in post, but for pre-planning for your shoot, I think there's little things that could have been done that would have really strengthened it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on a lot of this. I think if you want to make a heroic shot, you have to first think about what makes something heroic. There's a lot of iconic stuff out there that you can look at that makes it clear when something is heroic. If it's heroic, it's often shot from a little bit low so that the person is high in the frame so that you're looking up at them because you're supposed to admire heroes. It's often shot with really punchy light, which probably goes back to comic book stuff. But toward now, we kind of expect to see that. There's usually some kind of bright heroic. There's often like a kicker or some rim light. There's usually some kind of real punch going on. And a lot of times there's color and contrast that's happening. And this is super soft and kind of, the color is delicate and the retouch is definitely in a style that's either, inspired by Kelly's or very similar to Kelly's. And I think you're taking an idea and then a retouching style and they're conflicting. So, and Kelly, you can like totally correct me if I'm wrong here, but with your whimsy waifs, I think there's something about making the subject appear delicate and fragile that plays into a lot of times the story that you're telling. Like, despite being fragile and delicate, the women in your images are persisting, right? Like there's always this kind of thing of like being close to breaking but never quite breaking, or there's a fragility and a delicacy that's like, right. So then when you go and you take that kind of a purpose, like your retouching has a purpose. Everything that you do when you retouch an image in your style has a purpose that plays into the story. And so that is not always necessarily going to translate into everybody's message unless they're able to take it apart and repurpose it for their own thing. And in this case, I don't think it's wrong to go with something that is surreal or cartoony. But like you said, first it has to be pushed all the way so that a viewer doesn't see it and go, is that, they need to go, oh, they like need to recognize the fact immediately that it's surreal. And then two, it's important to remember that all of us share a kind of communal sense of certain things that we've experienced in our culture. Superheroes look a certain way, and it doesn't mean you can't ever change it, but it means that is in people's psychology already, and you can take advantage of that. You can leverage that in your work by kind of putting some of those elements in that give people the signal of what you're trying to say. Yes. So I love the sentiment for this. I absolutely, let's make images where we're celebrating our medical community in general for the amazing work that they do. I almost wish that it said here, all real heroes wear masks or something like that. You know what I mean? Just to play into the fact that she has that on there. So great idea. I think the approach just went the wrong way. I still think that if you feel really strong in Photoshop, that there's things that you could do to make this image stronger than it is now, like the ladies have mentioned so far. But if you're going to pose for this kind of thing in the future, that hero stance is almost always wide-legged, because there's something about planting yourself and being ready to move. And it's often a kind of chest out, hips forward kind of pose. So just really getting into the psychology of like why those images say hero to us, and then applying that stuff would be a really good.
I just want to jump in because I am watching the chat, like I said, and Michelle is watching right now, the lady who did this image, and she says that it was meant to be a surreal retouch. In the future, she's definitely going to push it further, and she says thank you. This was her first ever crit, and she's overwhelmingly grateful.
Holy crow!
Oh, good job, girl!
For your first time, that's fantastic. And again, like, I know we're being nitpicky, Michelle, but this has potential. So don't take our criticisms as, you know, as negative, because it's not what it is. It's just, if you're going to push the surreal aspect, like, push it. And this has, and like Nicole said, again, we're telling a story, right? So maybe, you know, real heroes wear masks. Like, those are the kind of things that you need to play off of. And I mean, it's art, it's personal opinion. I'm the first one to say my art is my art, your art's your art. People can, you know, give you criticisms all they want, but end of the day, if you're happy with it, that's all that matters. I think you could probably go in this and push it 50% more, and you would see a huge difference. Just with like pulling her waist in and bringing her arms out, and like even lifting up the bottom of her mask or something, right? So I don't want this to deter you at all from doing this again. I just want people to realize that it does have to be pushed, because if it's not, you're going to have a lot of people in the background that will start complaining about you just trying to make someone smaller than they are without there being intention. And that's kind of my fear for everybody when they create images like this. So definitely next time, push it further, for sure. And then, sorry, Ella still has to go, right? And Olga.
No, I don't have anything else to add. I was just gonna ask if Olga had any like last comments, because we do have 2 more images to go through as well.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everything that people have said already. I would have probably liked to see it more in like a cooler tone instead of like the warm, because when I think of like medical and medicinal, I think of like clean blue, like white. And so like the warm is really throwing it off for me. But I really would, like Kelly was saying, that just to go 100% with the wave, because right now you look at it and you're just not sure like where this person was going with it. And so you have to be able to look at it and immediately like know like, oh, this is surreal. This is on purpose. And everything else that everyone said, I pretty much mirror it. Yeah.
It's creative.
Thank you, Michelle. And I'm glad that you're here too.
Yeah. Hi, Michelle.
Watching.
Yeah. She does say that, she says it's all good. She's like, I want to get better. At her age, it's all about learning no matter what. And she's hungry to keep pushing herself.
Good for you. That's the perfect attitude to have.
Yeah. Really great.
Do it and then submit it back again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
Oh no, go away. Not your image, Michelle. Little bar on top. All right, Next image. Do you guys want me to go first, or does someone else want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, go.
Okay, so this image says a lot of things to me. And I'm not sure they all, I think on an individual level, I think they all are good, but juxtaposed together, I'm not sure how well they work. So the first thing I see is this very like pop art style, right? With the what are those called? They're not lollipops, popsicles. Popsicle wallpaper, which is super cool, and the lips on the wall, and like it's super pop art, which to me immediately is like, okay, crank the saturation, crank the contrast. That should be really loud.
Warhol.
Yeah. But there's an interesting juxtaposition here because the color grading on her and on the image overall feels very cinematic, which to me is an interesting combination between that pop art and the cinematic. And to me, what I'm reading as cinematic, I guess, is it's a little bit less contrasty, it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit more muted. And so I think if she had a different background, I would really love this image. Or if the foreground was different, it might read differently, but I think it's just kind of a weird juxtaposition of the two. Like I would either take it all the way cinematic and get rid of the background and make it something that is a little bit more muted, or just totally embrace the pop art and really treat your retouching and your color grading in that style. So I would crank up that saturation. I would crank up the luminosity even, because when it's poppy, like those whites are going to be really white. Her skin tone's going to be lighter. It's going to have this kind of like very high key effect. But there's also, like I said, there's a lot going on. There's also a narrative here, and she's ironing a t-shirt in a dress, and like clearly there's a story that we can infer from this. I'm not entirely certain what the story is. Like, is it her boyfriend's shirt? And like, is it her own shirt? Is she I don't know, does she have this expression because she's mad at her boyfriend for having her iron a shirt? I don't know. I mean, she has like a very serious expression on her face. And so I think like all of the styling elements are there for a really cool, like high key pop art thing. So if I were to kind of recreate this and make this work with all of the same elements, I think her styling looks really good. I like the scene styling. I would probably just switch up the color grade, and I would switch up her expression as well. Maybe make it a little bit softer. So either something where she's like smiling, or she's a little bit more contemplative, or maybe she's smirking or has like a quizzical look on her face. But right now, the color story and the set design story doesn't really match her expression.
Right.
That makes sense. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was waiting for Sonia. I mean, I
No.
can talk too. So did you want to go, Nicole, or do you want me to jump in?
Sorry. Yeah. I was pulling things back up. I had to shut somebody. Not somebody. It wasn't somebody, but I was having background noises happening. No, I agree with Kate a lot. I think that it's a super cool idea. I love the color contrast. I like the pop art feel. I think some of the positioning of elements is just a little bit off just enough that it's heavy on one side. And I kind of wish that there was a little bit more symmetry somewhere so that the balance was just back a little bit. I don't know if that means reframing or maybe actually moving things in the scene to kind of get a little bit of a better balance. It has this feel of like a 50s, 60s housewife, reinterpreted kind of modern. But like Kate said, I think her skin tones like are very brown, and we're kind of, the impact of the color contrast and the brightness in the colors is almost there, but it's not quite there. So it it leaves you wanting to just go farther in one direction or the other. And since she's looking directly at the camera, it makes me want to go pop art rather than cinematic, because in that you can engage the viewer a little bit more, whereas with a cinematic image you want the subject engaged in the story, and then you want to be looking at the story a little bit more to kind of like interpret what's going on, at least for me. So I feel like pushing this more pop art, making it more punchier. Conjugate that one.
Punchier.
Punchier.
More
Yeah.
punchier. More punchier.
More punchier. Yeah, and I kind of almost wish there was some steam coming out of the thing, just because I don't know, I just want that.
Yeah.
That's just for me. It doesn't, I don't know that it would make the image better, but I just wish there was steam. But yeah, I mean, she's centered, she's looking straight at the viewer. It's almost confrontational. So you kind of wish that there was a little bit more confrontation in her face, like, this is crap, or like, yeah, I'll put this iron on your face too. Like, you just want some kind of like sense of what's happening, just a little bit more into the story.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen her facial expression match the lips in the background. Like, that would have been an interesting story element.
I was thinking about that too with the colors and stuff too, because it would have been neat to bring, I was thinking the color from the lips into the irons as opposed to the blue, to sort of tie everything in together, because the bottom half, the top half, like if you put your hand like just above the couch, like the top and the bottom just read completely different. And I agree that there's this story to be told, but like, again, you guys can see my mouse, right? It's so dark right here, and this yellow is so bright, and I wish that it was all one tone. Like, I wish that, again, because that's the vibe I get too, is like this whole pop art thing. And so I wish that it was all one tone, and I wish that like the color from the lips was brought into the iron, and I wish maybe it was pulled, like, even if the couch was there but kind of off to the side, and the picture seems a little bit skewed, like it's on a wall that's like, it's not quite straight, the lines aren't quite straight with the pictures.
Couch too.
So I wish like the couch was maybe pushed back and you could see her, and she was standing there and she's just like badass, she's got heels on, she's got a dress on, she's like, why are you making me iron your shit, you know? Like, that's
this trashy old white shirt.
It's just your crappy white shirt. Like, so I like, it's impactful, and I can see the story in my mind, but I'm just not getting it from this. And I want the story. Like, I want to know.
It's like right there.
Yeah,
like
I
right
want to
there.
know what's going on.
I don't mind the color. I don't mind the blue in there because it adds that kind of third color.
But it's all blue bottom heavy, right?
Yeah, it's very bottom heavy.
If it were distributed a little bit differently, and I think like the pop of white, the bottom of the image being so much lighter is just drawing the eye down versus drawing the focal point to her face, which is where I think it should be.
Yeah. I am going to jump in again, just let you know that Rudy's commenting saying that he used Kate's cinematic actions to color tone this. He agrees with the tips of cranking up the saturation and changing the facial expression. And this was shot with one speed light, which is why there's kind of that fall off of brightness on the right side. Side. Yeah. So just let you know that he's in here and he's listening. So yeah, that's what he had to say.
Welcome, Rudy. Thanks for showing us your thing.
For sure.
I really like, that's what I'm saying. I really do like the story behind this. I just want more story.
Agreed.
I think this is why like storyboards and stuff are so important though, right? Instead of just walking into a shoot without, like, I don't know if you walked in without a definite concept in mind, but when I'm sketching things out, I find that those things all come together when I'm looking at my storyboard, right? I'm like, this is what I want her to be like. This is how I need her to stand. And yeah, I really like the concept. I want like 30% more.
Yeah. I just have a couple things to add. There's not a lot. If you're going to go with the kind of like retro, I don't know, art kind of like poppy vibe, I personally would have tried to source a retro steamer instead of that super modern one, because I think that could have added a little bit to the 60s, 70s like housewife vibe. My only other like small, totally nitpicky thing is there's some little white like really light yellow
Right here?
lines. Yeah, and there's one on the other side too on the left.
Oh,
And they're
can
just
you
a
zoom in?
little bit, they're a little bit distracting. So I would have cloned or
Yeah,
like
I
healed
noticed
those
that
out.
right here.
Yeah, and it's
Oh,
not really
okay.
visible on the computer here, especially with the live stream. But if you pull up the actual JPEG that she sent us to view when we're doing this, it's very bright and very noticeable. So I would have just gotten rid of that really quick. And then just where her hip is jutting out a little bit, like kind of underneath her rib cage where the dress sticks out, I would have just like liquefied that just
Right here.
a little bit in, because it just makes it look a little bit like cleaner and tidier. And those are just my like very small nitpicky things that I would have changed personally. And then yeah, Rue, get a second light or like a reflector or something, bud. You could have.
I think with the lighting, like the lighting is beautiful.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these issues are just a function of just going into post and just brightening things up, adding some contrast and adding some saturation, and then you're pretty close.
I don't think that this would be a massive, I agree. I don't think this would be a massive undertaking to make it like 30% better. I think you just need to go in and play with your curves and play with your saturation and stuff. I think this has a lot of potential. It just needs a little bit of tweaking. I agree. Yeah. I don't think it's anything that can't be fixed in post.
Olga, did you have some thoughts?
I had a few thoughts.
Share.
I disagree about the couch. I wish it wasn't there. I create such bulk in the bottom half of the image that like my eyes just go down there and go, oh, I don't want to. I like it. Just it's so much. But I really love the wallpaper, the popsicles. I love the fact that she's wearing this dress because it gives you this juxtaposition of like, oh, like I'm a housewife, ha ha ha, and but like she's wearing a nice dress. And I would have loved to, like Kelly was saying, just a little bit more story, maybe like burning the shirt, like having like a burn mark on it, because obviously she's not watching what she's doing, so she's probably burning the shirt.
I like that.
Like her eyes are saying like, F you, you're making me, do this housework. And I think it would be a really like a stronger of image if it was pulled back a little bit more so you could see her legs, like wearing heels, you could see the ironing board. And I think the couch really kind of takes away from that. And honestly, even the image is cut off, so it seems like not that purposeful, because it's not the full
placement. Yeah,
the placement is just too big. It's cut off. I feel like either if it was a little bit smaller and up, it would have been nice, or just not there at all. But other than that, like I love the concept of it, because I've never ironed anything, so
I don't know. I'm just making sure my husband can't see, because he's gonna want me to iron something, and that's not happening. I don't have my heels out today.
But you have your red lips, so there's that.
I mean,
and I'm just gonna mirror what you guys said. Like I feel like it's just a few things away from being like a really solid, like really striking image, but it's teeter-tottering on the edge of a lot of different styles. And I wish it was either commit to one, like the cinematic, or go the pop art, because right now it's like in between, and I just want it to go either way.
Yeah. Rudy says it was shot in a very small apartment with super limited space and lighting.
That's like excuses, and I don't want to hear them.
I'm just telling you what he's saying. So it's possible the couch couldn't have been moved, in which case I guess you could have shot like up a little bit more to hide it behind her.
Yeah,
but...
I think, and you can shoot tight. I think it just requires making a few small changes. You know what I mean? Like either kind of angling things differently, or maybe sacrificing in some areas so that you can kind of put things in the frame a little bit more, or move them out of the way, or change your angle.
Tight spaces all the time, and it's a giant pain in the ass. So
I legit destroy most of the places I shoot in, as Kate and Olga have seen in the garage. But even like shooting in when I was still shooting boudoir and we'd be working in like a hotel or something like that, I'm like taking pictures off the wall, and like I would literally take and move and remove things out of the scene, because I knew that just wasn't going to be a thing. And I personally think that everything that is in here works. It just has to be in the right spot. You know what I mean? Like I like the lips. I don't even mind personally the iron even so much, because it kind of grounds it in now and makes it clear that this is like a interpretation and not like a reproduction. But I like the blue contrast. I just think placement either needs to be different, or if it can't be different and it can't be balanced, it needs to be removed. Which, I mean, you can clone, like you can, if you're willing to like get into the ditches of retouching, you can do that stuff if you really love the image and you want to make it stronger. But a lot going for it, just not this far from being super cool.
Thumbs up though, I think, in my opinion.
Super cool idea. I think if you can go back and revisit this, like Rudy, if you can do that, because like this has so many possibilities for being such a cool like image where you're like, dope. It's like,
because right off the bat, it's so striking.
Totally.
So yeah. And again, we're just five
We're all
girls
nitpicking.
sitting here nitpicking photographs. So
Yeah, it's a nitpick.
yeah, good job.
He says, thanks for the tips, and you're right, there's no excuses.
So beasty, Olga, so beasty.
All right. Last one. I guess I don't need to tell you who this was from, eh? All right, last one.
You're gonna ghost right now.
Okay, so let me just say really quick. So this one was sent through, and the photographer sent 3.
Okay.
And said that he wanted to show symbolism in his work. So I know we're only doing one. So I picked one that made not the least amount of sense to me, but I think encompasses all of the
elements. That was a Naruto run. No, you need to go.
So there's a
get your kneecaps off.
And this is one of a series that
there's 3. Yeah. So there's 3.
I would like to see all of them, because if it's meant to be in a series and you just see
I don't know if it's meant to be in a series. He just sent 3.
Because I mean, like right now, out of context, I feel like I have no idea what's happening. Just like he's mad at a radio, ripped it out of a car.
Right.
Well, it's a CB. It's not a radio, but whatever.
CB radio, whatever.
Okay, so I mean, I guess I could send them through. Do you guys want to see the other ones? Do you want me to or do you want me to explain them to you?
I don't
pull them up on your screen.
Seeing them, but I think it's fair to note that not everyone is like, when you first come upon an image, you're not always going to have context.
Well, and that's kind of why I just grabbed one. So, like, I mean, I don't have a problem sharing the other 2. And I also don't have a problem kind of explaining the other 2, but I agree with Nicole.
Yeah, I'm good.
You don't often see a set. I mean, you do see a set together, but you're not always going to see a set together.
It's fine, whatever, it's fine.
Also, on his website, there's one of the 3 that he sent that's missing. So obviously, they're not intended to strictly be together, or they would all be together on his website, right? So
yeah.
Who wants to?
Okay, so let's just do it one at a time then. Just one. Just one.
Yeah, just one. Do you want me to go, or do you guys
go?
Okay, so I like the model. I think he's super cute. If I wasn't married, I'd want his phone number.
Look at that jawline.
Look at the jawline. I don't dislike this image. I don't really understand what's happening. So, and again, like Ella said, it was a CB?
Yeah,
CB.
like a trucker radio.
I don't know. I figured it was a radio. So then I was like, okay, is he like, he's kind of wet. So is he like singing in the rain? Is he calling somebody? Is he lonely? I'm like, I don't really know what's happening here. I think that we need to watch the color variations in this hand as opposed to this hand and his face, because his hand's very red. I would like to see him pop from the background a little more. So maybe playing with like the density of the shadows and stuff. I don't know. I think I'd like to see it maybe lower, because I'd like to see more of the sky, because this little bit of sky is drawing me away from the subject. Again, like from a personal aesthetic, like to me it feels very vintagey, so I'd like to see it more on like in the yellow sort of tones, magenta tones, as opposed to like bluey greeny, just because I think it might read better as a story. I want to know more of the story. I'm not sure how I feel. I think maybe if it was cropped out a little more and we had more awareness of what was going on the outside, as opposed to it being cropped so tight, like in his elbow being cut off and things like that. So even with the other three, I understand that the artist wanted there to be symbolism, but I don't really understand what the symbolism is. So that would be interesting to know. But yeah, I don't know. There are just, again, little things that I would like to see that would sort of explain the narrative of this image to me.
Yeah.
That I'm not really grasping.
Yeah, there's like a few little like technical things too I can talk about. Aside from the symbolism, because again, like I think it's a little bit unclear what the symbolism is, and maybe it just needs a really good title to like blast us in the face with it. I don't know. But my little nitpicky things are that the radio is like really dusty, and it looks like there's like, you know, fingerprints running through it. So I would have given that a good clean before shooting, just to make it really nice and shiny and really pop. I also think it's a little bit out of focus, and I'm looking at the higher resolution file that Kelly sent over, and I'm not really seeing like a clear focus point, unless it's just in a really weird place. It's either that, it's either not in focus, or there's a little bit of motion blur. I actually can't tell which one it is. And just from a personal preference on the way it was shot, I agree with what you said about the being too much space at the top. And I think if the photographer had gotten down even 6 inches and shot up a little bit more, the model could have not put his head back quite so far, and he would have gotten that lump at the back of his neck where his shirt is. That's just kind of like a little aesthetic thing that I don't love. So if he had just gotten down a little bit further, and then the model wouldn't have had to crank his neck back so bad, he could have avoided that. But again, super nitpicky, and it's like a personal thing that I don't love. But like I think the colors are really cool. Maybe a little bit too similar between the background and the suit jacket. Like maybe if he wasn't wearing the jacket and he was wearing all white, that would have been really cool, because he really would have popped out from the background. But yeah, and I don't really want to talk about symbolism and stuff like that, because
we don't really know what his intention is.
I'm not really getting it.
Yeah.
But so for me, like, as to make the image a little bit better, like from my personal preferences, those are things that I would have looked for or changed when shooting this.
Here's the thing though, like as artists, we impose symbolism into our images, whether if it's for us personally and only we know about it, or it's there intentionally to kind of invoke something out of the viewer, and it's meant to be kind of obvious. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either one of those, but I would be curious as to which the artist intended with this one. But if you're asking about symbolism, like I definitely could read a number of things into this, and my kind of personal take on this is he's got this like old vintage kind of low-tech radio, and yet he's this kind of business guy in a suit, contemporary, which to me reads more like high-tech, more modern, more contemporary. And it's an interesting juxtaposition, because he's using this kind of antiquated technology to sort of like scream into the void. So to me, what I would kind of interpret from it is that he is this kind of modern person who has all of this technology at his disposal, and yet he can't get actual communication from it. And so he has to revert to these sort of antiquated techniques in order to make connections with other people. I could be completely wrong about that.
That's a cool interpretation, though.
That would kind of be my thought about this. But beauty of art is someone else might have a totally different, thought process when they see this. They read it totally different.
I just want to say too, like, I completely agree with you. I think we create our art for ourselves, or I hope so at least. But part of his email was that he wanted to showcase symbolism. So I thought that was important because it was part of his email to us. So normally I agree with you that, like, it's a personal perspective and personal artwork. But I just thought that it was definitely important to mention because it was mentioned by the artist. So
Yeah, it's hard too because everyone people who are trained to look for symbolism, they're trained as artists, maybe they have an art history degree or whatever, like we're going to be kind of, whether intentionally or not, consciously or not, kind of looking for that sort of thing. Whereas, you know, Joe Schmo down the street might not have the same kind of relationship with art that we do. And so trying to find this kind of one size fits all approach to symbolism is virtually impossible. So
Agreed.
this might be symbolically obvious to someone, or it could be, you know, go over someone's head completely. So I don't really know what my point with that is, but
Fine.
but it sounded so good.
Yeah.
Kate Woodman, you're so smart.
So smart.
I'm just saying we all interpret shit differently, I
Yeah.
guess.
Totally.
I think with a few of the technical things, though, I would have loved to see maybe a different background, just so that his suit and the background aren't lost in each other, and maybe like a little bit more of a dramatic lighting because it's kind of flat, even though his hand is a little bit shiny. So meaning maybe his hand's closer to the light, but it's a little bit, I don't know, confusing in that respect. But with symbolism, I mean, I have no idea what's happening, but that's not my place to say, since not my
It's cool and it's dramatic and I like the drama.
Well, also the
Yeah.
fact that it makes you go, huh, like you spend longer looking at the image trying to figure it out versus like, oh, like, you know, just another pretty image, a dime a dozen, but you actually stop and you're like, what's happening here? And it makes you
There is
actually
the story and you want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
The more I look at this, the more I'm intrigued by it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, what is happening? And I think like with that, I do like that aspect of it because it's not immediately obvious and you're just like, well, it could be so many different things, but just a few technical things of just maybe a different background, just like the top is so light heavy and the bottom so dark heavy, just kind of creates a conflict. They're just fighting each other with like visual aspect, but that's pretty much it.
The background is interesting to me, I think, because obviously there is a lack of separation between him and the background, which may or may not be intentional. But I think if it is kind of a strategic or symbolic element, it would be stronger if he was kind of more like
In it?
yeah, almost like
Yeah.
by the bush, like he was like falling into it. But if that wasn't an intentional design element here, then I think kind of creating more contrast between him and the background could serve the image well.
So I think this is one of those images that comes back to something we've talked about so far every episode, and that is intention. And if you're going to use symbolism in your imagery, then you have to present it in a way that makes it interesting enough for the viewer to keep looking at it. And if I was to see this outside of what we're doing right now, which is the point of what we're doing is to try to break these images down, I wouldn't look twice. I would scroll right past it because there's no effort here to control the viewer's eye. So the first thing you have to do is catch us enough to make us want to keep looking at the image. And right now this image is super, the luminosity throughout is really super even. Like there's just no purposeful light that makes us go somewhere, or color contrast or something where it's so striking that we have to stop and pay attention to it. So I think that's the first thing I would want to say. If you're focusing on symbolism, you still have to catch our eye first. So it still needs to be a strong enough image where we will stop and look at it long enough to catch your symbolism. And then the other thing, I agree with you guys on almost everything that you've said so far. I don't think there's anything wrong with ambiguity and letting viewers try to come to their own conclusions. But there's so much in the visual language that allows you to manipulate the people who are looking at what you're creating to help them draw conclusions. And I don't get the feeling that this image is taking advantage of really much of that at all. I want more intention here, and I want to know that there was intention. Like there are some images that are photojournalistic, and yet still the intention is super clear. There are images from like all genres where you can see that it was intentionally put together the way that it was put together. And even though there's all of these elements, there's the suit and the CB and the model, and we're shooting up at him a little bit. If it's a cry into the void, I would have loved to see him more alone. I would love to see a big open empty sky and just him small on the bottom. I would love to see some kind of light to give us an idea of, you know, a sense of space. I mean, there's more that needs to happen here, I feel like, for the image to be compelling enough to make us want to look for the symbolism that's there. So I don't think that you can ignore the tenets of making striking imagery and then expect the symbolism to carry the day itself, if that makes sense.
Just cutting in again, Jason is in the chat and he is
Hi,
telling us he appreciates the feedback and he's now thinking he should have only just sent one image, as this one is not the strongest out of the set.
No, it's not the strongest out of the set at all.
Yeah, which is why you picked it,
Which is why I picked it, yeah.
Okay.
But hopefully the commentary that you're getting on this image will also apply in the other images you've submitted and any image moving forward. You know, I think this is, and that applies to all photographers who want to do any kind of conceptual work and include symbolism. You know, it's for the rest of you guys too.
No,
Yeah.
and the set's beautiful. The other two that he sent are, I mean, they're fashion forward and they're beautiful, and you know, I love what he's doing with the old radio and the suit and everything. But this one was sort of thrown into the mix and it didn't really make sense with the other two. So, you know, if you're gonna send three through, like, we're not judging them off of sets, so I understand that this is the weakest out of the bunch and the other ones are beautiful, but it does have to read as a set if it's going to be a set, I guess, you know, or it has to be able to read independent of the set too. So
he's agreeing with you. And I think those that are watching, so this is not the first time I think we've had a set sent to us and where we've only picked one image, I think, or maybe there's more that I've just seen in the inbox that are waiting. If you want us to look at your photos as a set, you need to send us like a diptych or a triptych or something where it's all one file, because we are only going to put up one file. So I think if there is something like this that you really need it to be included with one other photos, send it as a diptych or a triptych, because like we're only going to pick one file to put up, and make sure they're high res.
Yeah. And don't, and to Jason, don't feel bad if we picked the one that you don't feel was the strongest, because I think you guys have to remember that we're not just talking to you guys individually, but to anybody who watches. And so the feedback is for you guys too. It's for us as well. I mean, we learn something every time one of us gives feedback on an image. And so we're hoping that it's not just helpful for the people who submit, but for the other people who are watching as well, who don't know what the other images look like, but they're just seeing this one and hopefully getting good feedback as far as, you know, things that they can now think about when they're trying to approach an image that's using symbolism or that's doing other things that way, you know, because sometimes if an image is fantastic, there's not really much to say about it. Even though we can praise it, it's not super helpful to the people who are watching.
That's what I was about to say too. It would have been really easy for me to choose one of his other ones that I thought were fantastic, but then we're just, you know, patting you on the back because it's a great image, and that's not the point of any of this. This is supposed to be a learning experience. So, and again, not a bad image. It's like, he's sexy. Like, I'll look at it. I'm not complaining. You know, like it's a fine image. It's beautiful. But end of the day, this is a learning experience for everybody. So.
And we're in the future going to critique our own work as well, guys. Like, we're
are
going to share our own work and critique our own work so that you can see that this is not, nobody is beyond critique.
Nobody.
I mean, now and then we might have a fantastic image that just works on all scales, but I have submitted my images to critique in our group and got some fantastic feedback. And when we do it here, I know that these ladies are going to approach it all from their own style, and I'm going to hear things about my image that I haven't thought about. So,
and we're not always agree either.
No, not at all. And I bet some of you, if you were in here with us, would have your own views. You know, yeah, totally. And so that's actually really in the comments, guys. If we're talking about an image, it'd be great to hear your feedback and your thoughts too, because Ella will tell us what you have to say. So if you see something we haven't noticed, or if you have suggestions for the photographer who submitted, share those, during the lives, because we can talk about that stuff and bring it up, because you guys have totally valid points to talk about too. So
Yeah,
It's a party
sure.
up in here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it, friends.
Yeah, that was
My
Jason
hosting
Flynn, right?
duties are done. That was Jason Flynn.
Yeah, perfect.
right on, Jason. Thank you to everybody who is ballsy enough to send us your images. You guys are awesome, because even though it's not always, nothing but high praise, first, you guys are really brave for doing that. Second, thank you, because you're helping us learn, and you're helping hopefully our viewers learn as well.
Yeah,
totally.
So just, keep on shooting and keep on improving, and we're hopefully trying to do the same.
Should we mention what's happening on Wednesday? Or are we not mentioning?
Yeah,
we should.
we should.
Drinking live.
We're doing an after hours episode
on Wednesday, hump day.
Yeah,
we're doing a drunken roundtable on Wednesday.
Yeah,
there will be beverages.
Will we be doing our own photos?
Are we going to critique our own photos drunk, or are we going to do the old masters drunk?
I think the idea was old masters, right?
Yeah.
I don't want anyone critiquing my work drunk, because I know how that's going to turn out.
We love you.
Then it's just going to make me drink more, and
that will be amusing to everybody.
Oh my god.
Okay, so do we all want to pick one image for an ironic drunken critique?
Yeah. And like painting, photography, or just photography?
Painting.
I'm going old masters. I'm gonna burn the shit out of Leonardo da Vinci ears.
Tight. Love that.
Going down this Wednesday. York versus Da Vinci.
The more humorous the critique, the happier I'm gonna be. I don't know if you'll be able to stop me after I've had a few glasses of wine.
Oh my god.
The comments today is Monday. Wait, what? What day? What day?
Today's Monday. Today's Monday.
We don't know days anymore. It's all days are Corona days now.
Friday.
Wednesday.
So it's Wednesday now. Let's start drinking.
So viewers, if you guys have suggestions for old masters or Renaissance, etc. work that you would like to see us humorously critique while we have imbibed too many spirits, share your suggestions.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be good.
I don't think we have it. I don't think we have a time yet, but we'll let you guys know as soon as we've sorted
drinking
that.
time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Kelly, take your screen share off so that we can all dance it out.
Oh,
right now it only shows one person at a time while it's on the live. So there we go.
Hi, friends.
And let's just dance it out. Ready? Bye guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.